It is time for Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall to start winning their fantasy managers some games. No more messing around. We dig into our week 6 running back and quarterback rankings on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for listening to Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk. When I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. It is time to start our week 6 fantasy rankings. This season is flying by, but on today's episode, we're going to go through our running back and quarterback rankings, kind of talk through those, our differences, the guys that we both like, or maybe some guys that we don't really like this week. Tomorrow, we will get into the wide receiver and tight ends. Starting up here at the top of our running back list, no shocker, Derrick Henry's up there against Washington, number 1. I have Saquon Barkley, number 2. You have Jordan Mason, number 2. I have Mason, number 3. I want to talk about Mason here and stop here for a moment because we both have him ranked as a top 3 guy, but should he be? He's finished as the running back 25 in 2 of the last 3 weeks. And really, if he doesn't get into the end zone, he's been a bad play.
Yeah, he's kind of Tyrone Williams without the consistent touchdowns. Tyrone Williams scores every week. We know that. His streak is up to 8 games as he enters the bye. But Jordan Mason does not score every week the way that Christian McCaffrey did. So if you look at Jordan Mason right now, he's pretty good. Like if you lost McCaffrey, you can't complain because he's the RB9 on average scoring in half-point PPR. So, yeah, that's a good replacement. You didn't maybe expect him to be a top 3 back. I mean, he doesn't catch passes. That's going to always limit him here. And the other thing is the 49ers defense is not putting away teams or pulling away in the second half. He's not getting that massive volume, right? These games are a little too close where they just can't turn over the ball and just run it for like a good quarter. So that's also hurting him. So the defense is actually playing a part, I think, in Mason not being as productive because, again, he's so dependent on rushing and scoring. And if it all works out, then he's good to go. So, yeah, I think he's just got a high floor because he's going to turn out those rushing yards. If he gets 20 carries, he's going to have a big game. You just know it. And the Seahawks tonight, by the way, or tomorrow night, bad matchup for them up front. They have been run on a lot by the Lions. They scored there. The Giants did some damage with Tyrone Tracy Jr. So this is a very good matchup for him to rack up a lot of rushing yards. The keys, whether he's going to finish in the top 5, is the 49ers have a lead where he can get those 25 carries in the second half. And it might be tough here. Seattle is a tough place to play, so I don't know if they can pull away, but that would definitely help him score because it's a very good matchup.
Yeah, his team offensive snap percentage has dropped too, all the way down to 64% in week 5. He was up at 80 the first 2 weeks. So going down a little bit here, just something to keep an eye on. He's still obviously going to be in your lineups, but I'm thinking we're maybe being a little bit too generous with those rankings for Jordan Mason. Now you're being very, very generous with Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson. They're your running back 3 and 4 this week. Because of the big names, I feel like they just keep staying up here. I finally moved them down, which probably means they're going to have great games. I have Breece Hall at 13, Bijan Robinson at 14. They're still going to be in your lineup. I still have them ranked as top 14 guys, right? It's just they're not producing as top 5 running backs. So why do you feel confident that they will produce as where you drafted them this year?
Well, this is putting a lot of faith in the 2 offense coordinators, Zach Robinson and Nathaniel Hackett. So I'm trying to get in their heads and make them do the right thing. Well, the problem with the Falcons with Bijan Robinson is great. Captain Kirk and Kirk Cousins is having fun with the surf swag and these comebacks in the fourth quarter. But what does that do? They're running not as much as we want, right? They're throwing. Last week they threw for 509 yards, and they started out of the gate throwing because that was what you do against the Buccaneers defense when Vita Vea is in there. You really can't run against them. So they kind of just said, no, we're just not going to bother with that. We're going to attack the secondary. Kept throwing. They got behind. They had to throw some more. And for some reason, they like Tyler Algier when they want to pass protect and throw downfield. That's one thing. Kirk Cousins can check down, but he's got a big arm. So if he can stay upright, and this offensive line's been still decent with some injuries, he wants to throw downfield to Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. That's what he wants to do, not check down. So that hurts, right? If Bijan Robinson's only avenue is catching short passes. Well, this week, let's hope the Falcons do not need a fourth quarter comeback to beat the Panthers. They're allowing the most points in the NFL. Kirk Cousins, this is what I want to see. Pass to score. Get up. Get a lead. Get to the third and fourth quarter where Bijan can be in there. He doesn't have to pass protect. He doesn't have to catch passes. He can just reel off chunk run after chunk run and do his thing. And that game script quite hasn't happened. It's kind of bizarre where Bijan actually might be the closer and Tyler Algier might be, just the guy to get Cousins upright in those situations. We did see a play where I think Bijan was run over by Vita Vea and got Kirk Cousins almost killed. So I think that is playing a factor. So they need to play from ahead. And with Breece Hall, and the Bills allow 144 rushing yards per game. They allow almost 65 receiving yards, most in the NFL, to running backs. If the game plan for Nathaniel Hackett is not Aaron Rodgers throwing short passes to Breece Hall and Braylon Allen all night long on Monday, they should fire him too.
They should have already fired him.
Yeah, they should have already fired him. But if Aaron Rodgers isn't throwing these little dump offs in the open field to these guys, it's a mistake. So I could see Breece Hall having a big game, and I think Braylon Allen should too. They should go back to a few weeks ago. That was working, right, with the Dolphins matchup or whatever they had where they could run and do this. This is their game plan to win, not Aaron Rodgers throwing 65% of the time.
Yeah, I'll say Bijan's a little less scary at this point. Like if Hall has another game with 2 points, like I don't know what you're going to do with him.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Jets offense. Yeah.
It is a great matchup, especially for Bijan against the Panthers. So again, I have them ranked a little bit lower compared to where they're going to be consensus, but they're still in your lineups.
Yeah.
Now, what about Alvin Kamara? Because Derek Carr, it's come out, he's going to miss at least a couple weeks, probably a few weeks, but they do have a bye in there, so maybe that helps him get back quicker and not miss as many games. But does this help Kamara get maybe more work, but the work probably won't be as efficient? Like, where are we going with this? Because the first 4 weeks he was electric, a little bit a disappointing week last week at running back 27. But where do we have him ranked? Because I'm getting a little nervous. I have him at 4, you have him at 5. But with this news, are you going to move him down?
Well, I think the one good thing is it could be like Derek Carr early. Remember last year, he was just throwing a bunch of checkdowns to Alvin Kamara. Yeah. You might have to do that. Like if it's Spencer Rattler in there, he's a rookie. He's going to just dump off. And we'll see if Taysom Hill can play. That could also be a wrinkle, right? If they can run Hill a little bit more, that actually helps Kamara because you have like a bigger change of pace speed back in there with Kamara, which actually I think helps kind of their running game plan a little bit more. That definitely does confuse coordinators a little bit more if you have that option. So when you look at it, I think you probably see a good volume of receptions from Kamara. You might see the rushing totals go down because they're probably not going to be playing from ahead there in that game against the Buccaneers this week. So that's the thing. So I think you'll just have to pivot. But the great news is that's Alvin Kamara's bread and butter. Catching passes, racking up yards, and if they get anywhere close, he's going to be the guy that touches it near the end zone.
Yeah, I'm hoping just volume for him. I don't know how often they're going to be near the end zone, and it's going to have to come through those short passes. The Buccaneers can be beat through the passing game. That's what's irritating, right?
Yeah, very
and then without Carr there, it's going to be a little bit hard. Kamara is a volume play, I think, this week. Yeah. And then David Montgomery moving over to the Lions backfield. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, we have them both ranked as top 10 running backs this week against the Cowboys, who are just giving up a lot of points, a lot of rushing yards. But the Cowboys are allowing the 5th most fantasy points per game to running backs this season. Montgomery, he just scores every game. Like, he's going to get into the end zone. But what's also cool is that anytime they're around the goal line, they're using a running back. So Gibbs also is getting these opportunities. They're not just all going to Montgomery. Gibbs is getting in a bunch. He's getting targets. He's getting carries. Like they know how to use both of them. They've both been really, really good. Montgomery's actually been a little bit better in fantasy, but I love them both this week.
Yeah, and this is the way the Lions like to score. They're not throwing to Sam Laporta, who's looking for his first touchdown. Maybe he gets it this week against the Cowboys. The Cowboys are actually kind of tough on tight end, so we'll see how that plays out. But Yeah, I mean, what is Jared Goff doing? I mean, pretty much he needs Jameson Williams shot plays to score touchdowns at this point. When they get into the 10, it's just pick your poison. Is it Gibbs? Is it Montgomery? It looks like they're giving them equal opportunities in key situations. They make sure they rotate the drives and say if one guy reels off a long run, the other guy usually scores a touchdown. So things like that. But they're being fair and even to distribute the wealth. That's why we have them ranked back to back so high. And by the way, Montgomery has the second longest touchdown streak after Kyren Williams. I think it's up to 7 games. So he scored in 7 straight, Williams in 8 straight. These guys are just very valuable to get those free 6 points every week, pretty much.
Yeah, just every week he's going to get one. Now, lastly, here at the top of our rankings, DeAndre Swift has made my top 10. I have him at running back 9. You're pretty close. You have him at running back 13. He gets a great matchup against the Jaguars, allowing the 6th most fantasy points per game to running backs this season. But also, all of a sudden, the Bears have figured out their offense. They're starting to score. They're starting to feed Swift, and it's been successful, right? So I don't know why they would go away from that, especially in this matchup that is weak in that area, getting the majority of these carries in the backfield. So really, really like Swift this week.
Yeah, you look at the combination last week also against his defense of Trey Sermon and Goodson in there catching passes. I mean, they racked up a lot of receiving yards, and then we had Sermon score. So if those guys can get it done, DeAndre Swift is faster, more explosive. I think he's going to get it done. And I really like the Bears' offense started slow, but I think they were kind of reining in Caleb Williams. But now they feel comfortable with him. They know where he wants to put the ball. Again, we talked about the 3-guy offense that they're pretty much executing now with DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, and Cole Kmet. I think they'll also open up the deep ball a little bit for Dinze, so that'll give Swift some room to rumble in this game. So, again, I expect Swift to come through big time in London this week. Keep it up.
Yeah. Some other guys we have in our top 12, we each have Jacobs and Cook and Connor, all inside our top 9. They are must plays. Again, I brought up Saquon's my 2. He's your 10, but it doesn't really matter. You're playing him. He's been absolutely amazing. Chuba Hubbard, I have him at 10. You have him at 15, but a great play. And then we both also like Kenneth Walker as well this week. We will get into the rest of our running back rankings outside of our top 12 here right after we take a quick break. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now actually win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. What's also super awesome about Prize Picks is that they're the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play, even if one of your players gets injured. Vinnie and I, always on Fridays, we give you our 6 favorite Prize picks of the week. But if you want to get started before then and just check out all the different projections that you can go through, either higher or lower, all you have to do is just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play. You don't even have to win. Prize Picks, download it today. Again, that's Prize Picks app, code LOCKEDONNFL. One guy that we've been talking up already because our waiver wire show, it's Tyrone Tracy Jr. We both have him as a top 20 start. I'm a little bit higher on him with running back 16. You have him at running back 20 against the Bengals. We still don't know yet if Devin Singletary will be back. Obviously, if he's back, that kind of hurts us a bit. But I really, really like Tracy against the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good matchup. The Bengals can be gashed here. They've dropped to, I think, 30th against the run. There's only a couple teams behind them. I believe they are the Rams and Colts. So Rams are off this week. Colts get a good matchup for Tank Bigsby this week. But when you look at this, Tracy is in a great spot. And the Giants offense is playing pretty well. Daniel Jones is protecting the ball. They should get Malik Neighbors back. Darius Slayton got involved with Neighbors out last week. So you have him working. You got Wanda Robinson. We talked about Theo Johnson doing some damage last week. So Brian Dable maybe just him. Like he knows what he's doing a little bit, calling the plays. It took a while maybe for Jones to get going with any injury, but that's great, right? They're run blocking really well up front. I mean, Andrew Thomas has been solid to begin the year. It's their strength, and that's what they're relying on, and they can kind of bully the Bengals a bit up front. So I do like that. Again, Tracy, sometimes it's a player, versatile player, yes, talented player, but it's also the system, and what Dable's doing is really good for this entire offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I picked him up in a lot of my waivers, and maybe
Yeah.
Devin Singletary could use this next week to just fully
Yeah,
recover.
yeah.
That's
Well, it's a good situation. Like when we had
yeah,
Zach Charbonnet, he got all the touches, and we were golden. So just handcuff your guys.
yeah.
Even, yep, that's the bottom line.
Brian Robinson Jr. is a great play.
Oh, yeah.
Always, you got
Every week.
every week. Plug him in. Now, in that same magic we were just talking about with Tyrone Tracy, you got a confusing backfield on the other side with the Bengals. Zach Moss, Chase Brown. Now, Chase Brown outscored Moss this last week. He got the goal, or he got the 2-point conversion in the receiving touchdown. I don't. This is a hard one,
Yeah.
right? Because Moss still played 68% of the snaps. That was the 7th highest among all running backs last week. So he's still out there, a lot more than Chase Brown. But Brown is starting to get those goal line carries. And that was even with Moss getting hurt. He left the game with an
Yeah.
injury, came back in, left the game again. He left the game twice. So it might be best. Maybe Moss needs a week off with the ankle injury. And then we know for sure Chase Brown. But right now, these two are kind of hurting each other. I don't feel great about going with either one.
Yeah, I mean, let's watch the injury. I mean, I think they'll err on the side of caution with Moss if they have to, especially the way Chase Brown can affect things. I mean, this would be a good time maybe to sit him on a Sunday night where they should be able to move the ball with other guys, right? And, teams don't always think that way, but I think that would be a smart decision, right? If you need both of these guys later in the season, they're also 1-4, so maybe they are a little bit careful with some of their personnel as they go forward. So, yeah, something to watch there, but I think this is going to be a pass-happy game script against the Giants, just because that's the way it's going to be with how bad their defense is. And I think that would also favor Chase Brown a little bit more in those high-leverage touches versus the snap counts.
True. That's fair enough. Now, moving on to someone that we're a little bit different on, but I understand why you have him here. Tank Bigsby. You have him all the way at running back 18 against the Bears. The Bears are a really, really nice matchup for running backs. They are. They've been allowing a lot of points to them. I have him at running back 30, and I get it. Bigsby is the better runner right now than Travis Etienne. I just don't think he's going to just take over this job that easily. And he doesn't get targets at all, right? He got 1 target last week, but he's not a pass catcher. He's going to have to get into the end zone. Maybe he can, but I think Travis Etienne's still going to be back there as the main back. That's why I have Bigsby at running back 30. It's not like I have Etienne high. I still have him in the low teens. I have him at 19, but I have Etienne at 19 and Bigsby at 30.
Yeah, I mean, I am concerned about Travis Etienne, just his role in general, because remember, there was rumors they wanted this to happen kind of in the rookie season, but Bigsby kind of ballooned a little bit. He was a little bit out of shape, and he had some fumbling issues early, and then he kind of got doghoused by Doug Pearson. Well, you can't doghouse people when you're winless, and you need people that are going to make plays. And without Tank Bigsby, they don't beat the Colts last week, and I think they took notice. I mean, it's not like this Jaguars blocking group is all that great, right? It's okay, and it should be above average when you look at it overall. But Bigsby's just running with more conviction. He wants to be out there, and I don't know. This Jaguars team has some guys maybe going through the motions a little bit. Bigsby's not one. I mean, he's looking at Etienne struggling and saying, "I'm going to run hard." So no matter what they say, I think Bigsby has to be the key to them trying to beat the Bears this week.
Yeah, I think with Bigsby, we're going to see what's happening with Jordan Mason at the beginning with him running so hard and he looks so great.
Yeah.
He's impossible. That play style just doesn't hold up, though. Mason, every single game looks less and less
like
impressive.
Devin Achane. Yeah, running hard for big plays.
But at least Achane has the speed, right?
Yeah, Bigsby's yards per carry, man. They're pretty
high. I know. Look at Mason when he started, but every week it gets a little bit less impressive. Yeah. And when Christian McCaffrey's back, he's going to take over that job. I think Etienne, it's going to be Bigsby will get his, and he should, because he's been playing better than Etienne. It's hard to trust him right now. I'm going to have him as my ice play of the week in my Fire and Ice article, but I've been wrong
Yeah.
plenty of times before,
Yeah.
so we shall see. J.K. Dobbins, I want this answer from you real quick. J.K. Dobbins at the Broncos or Najee Harris at the Raiders with no Cordell Patterson, no Jalen Warren. Raiders have allowed the 7th most fantasy points per game to running backs. Denver's allowed the 10th fewest to running backs.
I'm going JK all day in this. Like, it is mind-boggling why the last two opponents have thrown 65 to 67% of time on the Broncos defense. You have to run on the Broncos defense. What offense is going to be relentless with the running game? Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, J.K. Dobbins defense. They're going to play from ahead. I'm all over J.K. Dobbins. I think he has a huge week, kind of like we saw in week 1 against the Raiders and week 2 against the Panthers.
Very great. I love to hear that because I have him in some leagues. I have J.K. Dobbins ranked even higher than you. So you're super pumped on him. I must be too because I am at running back 18.
Yeah, Harris, no. Ugh.
I know.
I think Justin Fields gets a Hundy, and that's a better bet than Najee Harris.
I have Harris at 24, and it's only because he's going to get all the work and against the Raiders. But I don't feel good about it. And you have him at 30. I think that's completely fair. He's just not a good running back right now. And last question for you. Let's rank these guys. Braylon Allen against the Bills, Rico Dowdle against the Lions, or Jerome Ford against the Eagles. Rank them in the order you want to play them.
Yeah, Braylon Allen first. I told you why with the Breece Hall analysis there with the running and receiving you can do against the Bills. Then you look at the next play, definitely would be Jerome Ford. I think they'll play from behind. Ford is kind of the catch-up back against the Eagles. One more time maybe before Nick Chubb returns. And Rico Dowdle, really tough matchup against the Lions. So I think that's how I would do it.
Yeah, the Lions are allowing the fewest scrimmage yards per game to running backs this season. The Eagles are allowing the 4th most scrimmage yards per game to running backs. So that's for Ford. Braylon Allen, the Bills are allowing the most scrimmage yards per game and most fantasy points per game to running backs, but a big part of that was Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lean Jerome Ford first. Yeah, I'm going to go Jerome Ford first, then Braylon Allen, and then Rico Dowdle, but I really don't want to play Rico Dowdle this week either. We will get into our quarterback rankings to finish up our first 2 positional rankings for week 6 right after a quick break.
This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's America's #1 sportsbook. We're about a third of the way through the NFL season. We will be after week 6 is in the books through Monday night. This is a time NFL fans to get in and get on the big returns on FanDuel. That's America's #1 sportsbook. And you can get in the action in the middle of games. You can also track all your bets very nicely on the site. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you placed your NFL bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's only at FanDuel.com. Again, check it out. Thursday, I do like the 49ers. It's a field goal favorite right now around for them against the Seahawks. I do like them to rebound and win that game by more than a field goal. So check that out at FanDuel. Put on your own action there. FanDuel.com. That's America's #1 sportsbook. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by Hillsdale College, and it's a new thing that you should definitely check out here. And it's a chance for you to get smarter, just have some self-enrichment. Time is our precious commodity that we don't want to waste. So scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours on social media, you can spend it more wisely and improve yourself only at Hillsdale College. They offer a lot of great courses there for you to just learn more about our world, including the great American story and land of hope, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, and they also have introduction to free market economics. So you can learn what's going on here, stay informed as we prepare for another election here. It's a good time to, again, enrich yourself, make yourself smarter. And Hillsdale offers all these courses, more than 40. That's right, free. They're free online courses that you can take only at Hillsdale College. Check it out. Go to hillsdale.edu/lockdown to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockdown to register. Hillsdale.edu/lockdown to check it out now. All right, Michelle, it is time to close our show and look at our quarterback ranking. So let's start. And the funny thing is, we have the same top 6 in a slightly different order. They are Lamar Jackson and Jane Daniels. They happen to be playing each other. We have Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. So it's the same thing, and it's Joe Burrow, Murray, Love, Hurts. So however you look at it, those are our top 6 quarterbacks. Those are our must plays. Now let's get in a little bit outside of that grouping here. What do you expect from Josh Allen this week? I mean, this is a tough guy. I put him in the must starts because he's Josh Allen, but I have him at the bottom of the list, actually behind Dak Prescott. You have him ahead of Dak Prescott. I'm at 8. You have him at 8. So let's discuss that.
Yeah, I think if Khalil Shakir plays, I feel a bit better about him, right? Like, he clearly needed Shakir out there last game. They're not using Dalton Kincaid as the focal point, and the rest of those wide receivers are not helping Josh Allen in the slightest. Keon Coleman's just not ready for that role yet. Curtis Samuel is pointless. Like, and stop passing to Matt Collins. He needs to not be on the field.
Yeah.
Matt Collins needs to be taken away. We both have Josh Allen ranked as our quarterback 8, right? So that means you're still going to play him. But that's probably the lowest we've ever had him ranked in our history of our show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've only been doing this now for 2 seasons together, but this is probably the lowest I've ever had him ranked in the last 4 seasons in any of my rankings. The Jets are allowing the second lowest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season, and Josh Allen just hasn't been scoring touchdowns. He has 1 touchdown over the last 2 games. James Cook has stolen a bunch of those, so maybe they can go over to Josh Allen. Josh Allen could have a massive game at any point against any defense. It's just he needs his playmakers to step up.
Yeah, I don't think this has also been some good game plans and personnel usage from Joe Brady. Like, he had a lot of shine last year when they got on track. He was the guy early in the season when they were playing the likes of the Jaguars and Cardinals and ripping those defenses apart. But some tough defenses. The numbers haven't been that good. And the usage, like, they just don't put Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid on the field. Why would you do that? Especially last week in a game where Khalil Shakir didn't play. It makes no sense. You talked about Matt Collins. They're trying to get the ball to Matt Collins. They're trying to force run with James Cook, get Ray Davis. So I've got to get Ray Davis some touches behind Cook. So I don't know what's going on here. You know, Joe Brady's kind of lost his luster, and this Jets team is going to be a little angry. The coach is gone. Jeff Ulbrich is the interim. He's the defensive coordinator, so they're going to have something cooked up here for Josh Allen. The only way Josh Allen can break out of this, and it's kind of like a speedster in baseball, is not hitting. Run your way out of this. Go for 70 yards and a score on the ground. If you do that, we're going to be happy with what you do. But if you're going to try to get it done all passing against the Jets, good luck with that. That's not going to work. So here's some hope that they say, here, big guy, go and do your thing, run with reckless abandon, put up some numbers. When he does that, he's really a fantasy force. So if we don't see that this week, then we got to be a little bit concerned.
Yeah, he really, we need Josh Allen to come out and have a huge game.
Be Josh Allen. Yeah.
Yeah, be Josh Allen, be Superman.
Yeah.
Now, one guy that I'm much higher on than you are, it's CJ Stroud. I have him at quarterback 7. You have him at quarterback 17. The Patriots, right? And quarterbacks haven't been great against them this year. Aaron Rodgers put up 21 fantasy points, though, against them in week 3. If Aaron Rodgers can do it, CJ Stroud can do it. I know Nico Collins is out, but Stroud has been impressive. And last week I was a little bit worried because the Bills play heavy zone coverage. Well, the opposite is here with the Patriots. The Patriots play heavy man coverage compared to everyone else, 5th highest rate in the league. While Stroud has 136 passer rating for his man coverage this year, 9.1 yards per attempt, 77 completion percentage against man coverage. He's been elite in that area. And he still has Tank Dell. He still has Stephon Diggs. He'll figure it out with Dell. I'm going to talk about him tomorrow. I like Tank Dell. So he still has enough play weapons even without Nico Collins. I like him to throw a couple touchdowns in this game and put up some yardage.
Yeah, I do. I am concerned with the no Collins. I'll say that in this game because he's been so dependent on him. He's trying to reheat his connection with Tank Dell, and it could happen at any point, but is Stephon Diggs enough? And with Gerard Mayo, the Patriots still kind of followed that philosophy of like, we're going to mark somebody and kind of contain him out of the game. And without Collins, it's a little bit easier, right, for their game plan. I also think the Patriots are not going to put up much of a challenge here. And when you look at it, Texans are the best when they run the ball. It doesn't matter if they've had Joe Mixon or not, when they can do it with Cam Akers or Dario Ogunbowale or anybody in there. This is their best scoring. And you're right last week in terms of he did throw for a lot of yards against the Bills, but he didn't get that second touchdown to put him over. And that's the thing that's not happened a lot of games. He's not gotten that second touchdown where he's made a turnover. And he's kind of like where I have him ranked is kind of close to where he is on the season as a QB2 at this point. So again, maybe we're just asking for too much and avoiding the sophomore slump. And now his best receiver's out, and this Texans team is winning a little too easily, right? So it's maybe containing him to rein himself in a little bit when it's not working. But it'll be interesting to see without Collins. Can he get those couple scores? That's what it's going to come down to. Just have a decent game. You don't need to go for 300 and have some issues. Just go 215-2, get back on track, and maybe you can really feel good about Stroud going forward.
Now, moving on to a different game here. Would you rather play Dak Prescott or Jared Goff in the same matchup? Prescott has thrown 2 touchdowns each of the last 3 weeks, with one game in there with a rushing touchdown too. So he's been getting it done. Jared Goff finally had his big game before the bye against the Seahawks. Which one would you rather go with? Because I expect this to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, Jared Goff got it done because he got some big plays with very low volume. Dak Prescott is the opposite. He's going to have a lot of volume, not a lot of big plays, but now we have Jalen Tolbert as a scoring threat. He's getting it done without CeeDee Lamb being a massive factor. Let's keep that in the back of our heads as well, that CeeDee Lamb probably gets uncorked this week against the Lions secondary. So if he gets going, and now you have Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson, some of these other young receivers, Kevontae Turpin is starting to make plays. Dak is playing well. I mean, you saw that. I mean, it's pretty gutsy the way he kind of got those 2 TDs against the Steelers. I didn't think they had a shot late or trying, but he manufactured those 2 TDs. So he's playing well. I think Jared Goff, the problem is going to be what we talked about in segment 1. I think Gibbs and Montgomery could have big games and steal those touchdowns. And then he's really dependent on Jameson Williams, but the Cowboys don't allow a lot of deep balls either. So that's the rub here with Jared Goff, but I think it's easily Dak Prescott over Jared Goff.
Yeah, and we both have it ranked that way. You have Dak all the way up 7. I have him at 9. And then we both have Jared Goff exactly at 15. So we are in agreement with that. Now, another matchup with you could argue which guy to start here, Brock Purdy or Geno Smith on Thursday Night Football. So Purdy has been really disappointing for 4 or 5 games this year. But he's been really good against the Seahawks in his career. And then Geno Smith has been a top 8 quarterback 3 times, top 12 4 times, but he's been pretty bad against the 49ers in his career. So which way are you going?
Yeah, this is very interesting because on the season, by the way, an average scoring, you have Purdy at QB 15. Overall, he's QB 12. But when you look at Geno Smith, however you look at it, he's in the top 10. He's QB 7. Well, part of it is he leads the NFL in passing yards. He also leads the league in passing attempts, 199. So he's thrown almost 40 times per game, just one shy of that average with 200 attempts. So this Ryan Grubb offense running a ton of plays. So he's a volume-based quarterback play at this point. And the other thing is he's rushing. He has 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground, I believe like 150 rushing yards as well. So he's added to that total. He's only had 5 passing touchdowns, which might surprise you, 1 a game. But he's doing some through the air. Part of his Kenneth Walker scored a lot. But when you look at it, Geno Smith is probably going to have to throw a lot more than Brock Purdy. Here's how I'm going to play it for you. I have them 12 and 13. Brock Purdy is the floor play. Geno Smith is the ceiling play. Bigger boom and bust volatility. Well, Purdy, you can probably get 2 touchdowns. I can't tell you how many yards, but probably 200 plus from him, where Geno Smith could have 350 just throwing a ton, but only have 1 touchdown. So just some things to think about there, but they're really close for me, 12 and 13.
I have pretty different. I have Purdy at 11, Geno Smith at 18. Geno Smith's playing lights out right now. He is playing really well. We'll see if the 49ers defense can come together here. And then last up, let's rank these 3 guys that are all in really good matchups. Now, you normally don't play them, but they all had good games last week and great matchups. So you got Daniel Jones against the Giants, not against the Giants. That's who he's plays for. You have Daniel Jones against
not anymore. He's not pro Giants.
Against the Bengals. Kirk Cousins against the Panthers, or Caleb Williams against the Jaguars. How would you rank those guys?
That's funny you brought that up because I actually had these guys 10, 11, 12. I have Caleb Williams at 10 against the Jaguars because the Jaguars secondary stinks. It's the worst. He should do whatever he wants against that team. The Bengals defense also stinks. They're 19th against the pass as well as 30th overall, 26th against the run. They just stink all around. So he's going to put up the yards. And Daniel Jones, let's run a little bit. Let's add a little bit of that to your total. And then I have Kirk Cousins third, but I really think all these guys can come through. I just think Kirk Cousins, of all of them, is probably going to have the guaranteed positive game script for sure. And we want our boy Bijan to get going. So we want Kirk Cousins to be a little less this week, not throwing for 509 again this week.
Yeah, I mean, if we think Bijan's going to take a lot of carries against this Panthers offense, he's not going to have to throw that much to beat the Panthers, you wouldn't think. So Cousins would be last out of this group. And then it comes down to two risky guys, Jones or Caleb Williams, right? Either of these guys could really kill you or be really good. But I'm going to go with Daniel Jones in this matchup because I think the Bengals will definitely be putting up points against the Giants. We don't know if the Jaguars will be able to put up points against the Bears. And then also, as long as Malik Neighbors is there, right? Like that's a big key of this, even though he had a good game without him last week. But for me to choose Daniel Jones first, I want Malik Neighbors there. But if Malik Neighbors is there, I think Daniel Jones is a really great play. So I'm going to go Jones, then Caleb Williams, then Kirk Cousins as my order of three. But I think any three of these guys are playable this week.
Yeah, DFS guys that you want to look at for sure. They're really good values this week. So if you can play them, if you're playing the showdown, you definitely want to have Jones in there on Sunday night as well. And you can actually play them on FanDuel main slate with Sunday night. So that's great.
Absolutely. That is it for today's episode. Thank you to you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Everydayers will be back tomorrow talking about wide receiver and tight ends and going through our rankings. Don't miss it. Bye, y'all.